And we're live. What is happening, everybody? Welcome into the live stream. We got a fun one tonight. We got a 6-gamer. We have a bunch of injury news, a bunch of value that's going to be available to us, and should definitely be a stars and scrubs night, which, if you know me, that's my favorite type of build. I don't know. I love the stars and scrubs. It's always fun. You can get the maximum amount of points. It's going to be very high scoring, but the way I look at it, if you're building your lineups the best of your ability, using my projections, all that fun stuff, it should just be a lot of fun to build your lineups, and you should have a lot of success. So I'm definitely looking forward to it tonight. Patrick, how we doing? Camilla, welcome in. Garza, how we doing tonight? Yeah, man, tons of value. So it should be a good one. So we're gonna go game by game on DraftKings. We're still waiting on some pretty big, significant injury news with the Toronto Raptors. So that's really important. So we're gonna have to kind of keep our eyes on that one. But hasn't come through yet. We'll keep up to date on that and make sure that we're on top of it. But right now, it's not really looking like, not really looking too likely that they're going to play. I mean, I don't really think that the diagnosis would happen. I don't know. Just speculating at this point, but it's the first game that we're going to go over here. Toronto taking on Atlanta. We really need to know this news before we can really reflect on this game, the starting lineups. We know OG Anunoby's already out. But Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet are both listed as questionable. Obviously, if they're out, that's going to have a major impact on this team's rotation, who we're going to be looking to. So until we get that news, we're not going to really know. If Pascal Siakam's out, going to be a lot more minutes to go around for Precious Achiuwa, Kem Birch, Thad Young. Also could probably see a lot more minutes for some other guys on the team, like a Delano Banton and Malachi Flynn, if there is no Fred VanVleet. So honestly, I'm probably just going to circle back on this one when we get that news. Hopefully we get it when I'm live on the stream. I tend to think we're probably going to. If we don't, we're just going to have to keep our eyes on that and who starts in the starting lineup. I mean, we could pull up the fantasy point per minute production for this Toronto squad as far as the backups are concerned, just so you kind of have an idea of who the best fantasy point producers are if this happens. For me, I mean, Chris Boucher going to be another option that you're definitely going to want to be getting some exposure to if indeed there is no Pascal Siakam. Chris Boucher puts up 1.02 DK points per minute. Precious Achiuwa puts up 0.86. Thaddeus Young puts up 1.09. So Thad Young would become a really great play. Chris Boucher would become a really great play. Achiuwa, based on his minutes alone, would become a pretty good play. You have Kem Birch at 3.1. He's cheaper than all of them. Delano Banton's at minimum salary. He puts up 0.83 DK points per minute, so he'd become a pretty good play here. So, yeah, I mean, we need this news. Malachi Flynn, Svi Mikhailuk could possibly be you guys are looking to as well. But the good thing is with the Toronto Raptors, we know their minutes are really solidified in the rotation. Even if these guys are out, typically speaking, they are going to run the starting lineup the most minutes and then like a 2 or 3, 4 guy bench. Sometimes they'll spread it thin in these situations, but for the most part, we know the minutes are still going to be pretty solidified. So that's always nice to know that the minutes are going to be there for the starters. So that's what you're dealing with Toronto. Honestly, I'm just going to circle back to this game. Hopefully when we get that news, I guess. I mean, on the Atlanta side, I think Trae Young looks really good at 9.5. I talked about him in my video earlier. At this current price tag, he just looks really good in my projection model right now. His upside far surpasses this price tag, and for that reason, I mean, I've got him projected to score way more than what he's been scoring as of late, I will say, but the numbers add up. He puts up 1.43 DraftKings points per minute on the season. I've got him projected to play 35 minutes. You give him that many minutes in this type of game environment with a 223 over-under, it's going to be looking really good at this price tag. So he's certainly someone that I'm willing to go to in this one. And then as far as anyone else, like I said, Thad Young going to be looking really, really good if there is indeed no Pascal Siakam. Danilo Gallinari at 5.1 I certainly think is a good play with there being no John Collins now. He's the one that's getting the biggest bump up in minutes and usage. 35 minutes last time out, 37 DraftKings points. So that's obviously a very significant bump compared to where he was before when John Collins was healthy. So those are kind of some of my top options in this one. And yeah. Next game on the slate, we have Memphis taking on Chicago. As far as the over-under in this game comes in with a 237 over-under to 1.5 point spread in favor of the Memphis Grizzlies. So expected to stay close, expected to be up pace. I talked about DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic being priced way up now earlier in the day and not really wanting to get to them, but now we have so much value opening up with the San Antonio Spurs and possibly the Toronto Raptors that DeMar DeRozan becomes a lot more viable now. The guy's priced way up, but getting him in your lineups now becomes a possibility. And for that reason, I certainly think he's someone you could be getting some exposure to tonight at a 10.5 price tag. You also have Nikola Vucevic at 9.6. You have Zach LaVine at 8.6. All three of those guys, obviously the big three that are going to dominate all the usage. And we've seen them time and time again actually all be able to get there at times. Typically speaking, I mean, you probably want to cap your exposure to 2 of the 3 of these guys on a per lineup basis. It's just going to be really difficult for them to all 3 have the tournament winning upside that you need if you're trying to come in first in tournaments. So that's kind of my rule, kind of go 2 of the 3. But I would say DeMar DeRozan looking a lot more likely to be someone I'm willing to get my lineups based upon all this value that we have now. So that's something that's changed from this morning's video. And then running it back on the other side with Memphis, it's very simple as well. It's John Morant, it's Jaren Jackson, it's Desmond Bane, and it's Steven Adams. Really, those 4 guys are the ones that I'm looking to lock in on. And specifically, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane are becoming really great secondary options as long as there is no Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks has been out for an extended period of time now at this point, and I will continue to really want to target these guys. I also do think Brandon Clark at 5-1 looks like a decent play. I mean, on this slate with all the other really great value that's opening up, I think you're kind of stretching yourself a little bit thin if you go to him. Steven Adams at 5-4. I think Brandon Clark, maybe if Steven Adams gets in some foul trouble, is like a tournament option. But other than that, it's just his permanent production. He puts up 1.01 DK points per minute on the season. And the price point's there where it's like he could probably get you there almost. I mean, 34, 33 DraftKings points the last couple times out in his big games is pretty decent. Once again, though, most likely with all the value that we have opening up and stuff, you're not going to end up here. It just doesn't really make sense on this slate. There's going to be a lot of stars and scrubs build. You're going to be able to get up to some of the top studs in the slate. And for that reason, he's kind of in no man's land on this type of a slate. Washington taking on Cleveland is the next game on the slate. Let's catch up on the chat here. Emperor, welcome in, man. Scotty Barnes. Yeah, Scotty Barnes is my lock of the night regardless, man. I love Scotty Barnes. If you take Pascal and Fred VanVleet out of the equation, he becomes even better. But regardless, I love Scotty Barnes, so not too worried about the news impacting him too much. Emperor says, just giving my support for the channel. Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Sloppy Joey says, do you like Ayo to go for 9 rebounds and assists? I don't have a strong take there. I'd have to dig into my projections. Maybe I can circle back to that question. Just let me circle back to that once we kind of finish this game-by-game breakdown and we get into the questions segment of the live stream. So Washington taking on Cleveland is the next game on the slate. This game comes in right now with a 206 over-under. It's a 7.5 point spread in favor of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And for that reason, it's a little bit worrisome that it might turn into a blowout. But the biggest play for me in this game by far is going to be Brandon Goodwin. I kind of skipped over him in this morning's video unintentionally. I wish that I realized when I was done recording, I'm like, I didn't bring up Brandon Goodwin's name, and there's no Rajon Rondo when he's starting point guard, and he's taking on a Washington Wizards team that's terrible defensively, and he's a really good fantasy point producer. So that's what the live stream's for. We can recap this stuff, but Brandon Goodwin, maybe I did say his name. I was just thinking to myself in my head that I didn't, but regardless, he's a really great play. On the season, he's putting up 0.93 DraftKings points per minute. I've got him projected to play 31 minutes against a Washington Wizards team that when you're looking at my defensive half-court and putbacks tool as far as how Washington grades out, the 22nd in the league in points per possession rank, 26th in half-court points per play rank, 14th in half-court percentage of plays rank. Just really not a good defense, and Brandon Goodwin, a really good fantasy point producer, and the price tag's just too low with there being no Rajon Rondo now, so he's looking like a fantastic play for me on DraftKings and FanDuel tonight. Certainly someone that I'm willing to get a bunch of exposure to in this one. And other than that, on the Cleveland side, I talked about it earlier, but I do think that I like Mobley quite a bit, Evan Mobley. And Evan Mobley is priced at 6.8 for that reason. I just think this price tag is very friendly. I had him projected for quite a few minutes earlier in the day, though, so he was really, really popping. Since then, I've made some adjustments in my projection model. I had him up to like 37 minutes earlier in the day. I've ticked that down to 33. If I had him at 37, I was just getting like all the Evan Mobley. So now I've got him at 33 minutes. As far as his permanent production on the season, 0.98 DraftKings points per minute. He still looks really, really good at that price tag. Not quite as good as he did this morning, obviously, when I had him for 37 minutes, but still a really great play that I'm willing to get a lot of exposure to, and I'm not scared about this Washington defense. Running it back on the other side with Washington, I'm really not that interested in Washington. They get a terrible matchup here in a pace down spot. Kyle Kuzma continues to be a great play. Daniel Gafford would be my favorite option of the Washington squad. at 3-1, but we just had some value open up with a Jock Landale on the San Antonio Spurs, who's probably going to get even more minutes than Daniel Gafford, so maybe you could play both of them. You can only play one center, but I would lean towards going with a Jock Landale over Daniel Gafford. I just haven't projected for a lot more minutes. Or not a lot more, actually. Not that much, but a couple more minutes. They're both going to be really great values, though, at 3K and 3-1 respectively. So, Pascal Siakam expected to play. The news just came through. Fred VanVleet is a game-time decision. That's just fantastic. So, we don't have the Fred VanVleet news. But we know Pascal Siakam is expected to be in. Okay, so that's not going to make, the Thad Young value and that kind of stuff open up. Pascal Siakam dealing with an illness, how much that's going to impact him. I would say he's good to go if he's playing. I'm not going to treat it as he's a full go. So Pascal Siakam is indeed in for the slate tonight. So we did just get confirmation on that. Fred VanVleet's game time decision. I'm a little bit more worried about Fred VanVleet, actually, because there was a quote saying that after the All-Star break, he was quoted saying, like, he didn't feel quite as good as he was hoping he would after that big break, dealing with some knee injuries. It's on a back-to-back. I feel like it's a possibility they rest him for that reason. Because, dealing with a knee injury, what's the need to really push it on a back-to-back? They just got off the All-Star break. Just give him a break if he's not good to go. So my lean might be actually going with Fred VanVleet being out, but it's just a lean. We do need the confirmation. So San Antonio Spurs taking on the Miami Heat. This is where all the value is going to open up for us in the slate. There's no DeJounte Murray, no Jakob Poeltl, no Keldon Johnson in this one, so that is going to open up a ton of minutes. There's also here, and we just got the confirmation. Okay, Fred VanVleet is unlikely to play on Saturday, so exactly what I anticipated. So yeah, it doesn't sound like Fred VanVleet's doing too hot. Still dealing with an injury, so that's something to monitor and keep in mind as we're continuing to play these slates. He's feeling a little bit banged up, so yeah, no Jakob Poeltl and no Zach Collins in this one, so I do think Jock Landale is grading out as, a really fantastic value play on this slate tonight at a 3K price tag over here on DraftKings. Really great fantasy point per minute producer. He's putting up 0.97 DraftKings points per minute on the season. He's going to stand out right away. We also have Trey Jones at the minimum salary, getting the start at the point guard position most likely at 3K. He puts up 0.85 DraftKings points per minute at minimum salary. He's going to be another phenomenal piece of value alongside some other pieces of value. Joshua Primo listed as questionable at the minimum salary. He puts up 0.69 DraftKings points per minute. He would become a really great play if he's in. Lonnie Walker at 4-1 looks like a really great piece of value now. Coming off the bench as the sixth man, should see all the usage. We've seen Popovich wanting to use him as a closer as well at times in this rotation, so I certainly do like Lonnie Walker a lot on this slate tonight for some value. And then you have Devin Vassell at 5-1, Doug McDermott at 4-2, Bates Diop is minimum salary as well. But my favorite pieces are the guys we just talked about: Lonnie Walker, Jock Landale, Trey Jones, Doug McDermott, and Devin Vassell. So those are the guys that are really looking to go to. Load up on all this value. They're just going to have a ton of usage. Miami Heat isn't exactly the best matchup, unfortunately. But when you look at the over-under this one, it hasn't tanked too much. It's still 222 over-under. Would be nice if they had a better matchup, obviously, but the price tags are just really, really friendly. So regardless, these guys still looking like some really great plays for me on this slate tonight for sure. And wanting to be loading up on them. Josh Richardson is kind of a question mark right now. We don't really know if he's going to play either. He's listed as questionable, so that's obviously going to impact the rotation. So even more injury news on this slate that we didn't really need to be dealing with. But we do know Devin Vassell is going to be a great piece of value. We know Lonnie Walker. We know Jock Landale. We know the guys that we just reviewed. Some great pieces of value. And then running it back on the other side, if the game stays close, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo in phenomenal spots. I'm a little concerned about this game staying close now. But regardless, fast up-tempo game. It's a pace-up spot for the Miami Heat. They get a much better matchup as opposed to the San Antonio Spurs taking on the Miami Heat. So just keep that in mind in this one. And that would certainly be my approach in this one. As far as anyone else on the Miami side, I really do like Tyler Hero. He's probably my favorite play if this game does turn into a blowout, just because his price tag's cheap enough to where he could still get you there in a blowout. He's only 6'2", grades out as a pretty great fantasy point per minute, or just upside at his price tag guy in my projection model. I've got him projected to play 32 minutes at 1.02 DraftKings points per minute. That looks very, very appealing. So I do like Tyler Hero. You get the 3-point bonus on DraftKings. Looking like a great play for me on this slate tonight. Brooklyn taking on Milwaukee is the next game on the slate. This game comes in right now with a 237 over-under. It's a 9.5 point spread in favor of the Milwaukee Bucks. So possibly a blowout in this one for Milwaukee, but it's a 113.75 implied team total for the Brooklyn Nets, a 123.25 implied team total for the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo going to be someone that we can get in our lineups very easily now, similar to what I talked about earlier with, DeMar DeRozan. Now we have all this San Antonio Spurs value. It makes it a lot easier to be just jamming in studs in your lineup. So Giannis becomes much more of a priority for me today than he was earlier because we didn't have all this value earlier. Now we have all this great value on the San Antonio Spurs. We know they're going to get a lot of minutes. We know they're going to get a lot of usage. So it makes a lot of sense to be jamming some Giannis Antetokounmpo in your lineups. He should be able to fit in there pretty easily. Same could be said for Kyrie Irving on the other side at 9.9. There continues to be no Ben Simmons, no Kevin Durant until they return. He's obviously going to be the main usage candidate on this team, and he is priced very friendly at 9.9. He's got legitimate 50, 60, 70 point upside if he does really get hot. So at 9.9, certainly willing to load up on some Kyrie. The secondary options like Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis are all decent options. Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday become more of options if you're fading Giannis. Honestly, whenever Giannis is on the floor, though, he impacts their usage so much. Like, I would be lying to you if I said I think I'm really going to do that. I just think it makes so much sense to just load up on Giannis now with all this San Antonio Spurs value. And there's probably going to be some more value with Fred VanVleet being unlikely to play for the Toronto Raptors. So that's right away, I can tell you right now, that automatically makes Gary Trent, Scotty Barnes, and Pascal Siakam, those three guys just look like really good plays. And then whoever else starts for Toronto is going to be looking a lot better as well. Delano Banton, Malachi Flynn, Svi Mikhailuk, one of those guys you could be looking to put in your lineups as well for even more value. So getting Giannis in should just be really easy to do. And then some secondary options on Brooklyn. My favorite secondary option will be Seth Curry at 6.1. I really think it's going to be a lot of Seth Curry and Kyrie Irving usage in this one. So I want to load up on those guys. The other guys, like an Andre Drummond, he's a decent tournament play, but his minutes are going to be cut in a little bit by LaMarcus Aldridge. LaMarcus Aldridge is a little bit cheaper. It's just like, I don't really think we need to be putting these guys at our center spot on this slate when we have so many tremendous options. We have a Nikola Jokic, we have a Jock Landale pay down option now. We have Daniel Gafford. It just doesn't make sense. So, Giannis Antetokounmpo has center eligibility, so that's kind of where my head's at for that. Lastly, on the slate, Sacramento taking on Denver. Just talked about it, but Nikola Jokic, fantastic play. 12K, going to be very easy to be fitting in your lineups now with all this value opening up. This game is a great game environment. It comes in with a 236 over-under 8-point spread in favor of the Denver Nuggets. So I want to be loading up on some Nikola Jokic tonight for sure. It just becomes too easy to be jamming in these top studs, and I want to be doing so. So Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, getting up to them, certainly going to like. And I really do like Domantas Sabonis as well. So I'll be getting a lot of Domantas Sabonis, a lot of Nikola Jokic on this slate tonight, loading up on those guys. The secondary options are pretty nice plays as well. For the Sacramento side, you have De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes. For the Denver side, you have Aaron Gordon, Monty Morris, and Will Barton, all of which certainly worthy in your tournament lineups, all of which in this fast up-tempo game environment. I just would be limiting my exposure to all of them in the same lineup. Obviously, they are a little bit negatively correlated. When one guy scores, the other guy can't. So if I'm playing, Nikola Jokic and Domantas Sabonis, I'm mixing in one or two of these guys in this range. So Will Barton, Harrison Barnes, Monty Morris, etc. Just kind of the approach you have to have. De'Aaron Fox, also going to be a great upside play. Definitely becomes a lot easier to be fitting in your lineups than he was earlier. And I had mentioned it, he's been very scoring reliant. So just keep that in mind. For that reason, I'm a little bit skeptical on getting too much exposure to him. He's just like, he gets buckets, which is great and all, but from a fantasy point aspect, he's not really doing much else besides the scoring piece. So just keep that in mind when you're, trying to get some exposure to De'Aaron Fox. The upside's there, but the consistency and the overall ability to fill up the stat sheet outside of a scoring aspect has been a little bit dicey. So that's kind of going to be my approach when it comes to De'Aaron Fox. But upside's there, man. We're playing tournaments, so you got to be willing to take the risk with the upside. I mean, he's legitimately got, 60 fantasy point upside. We saw it. He put up 56 just as recent as a couple games ago. So certainly worth it. Certainly worth it, man. So Camilo says, Drew or Fox on DFS? I would definitely go with Fox. Once again, just with there being Giannis in the equation, it just sucks a lot of that usage away from a Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, so that would be my approach there. We got 26 people in here, only 10 likes, guys. If you're enjoying this stream, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell if you haven't already so you don't miss any future content that I upload. We just went over DraftKings, but I will be answering all of your questions. So if you have any questions on DraftKings and or FanDuel, please leave them in the chat. I will gladly answer them. But we're going to talk about FanDuel next here. Obviously, if you have any questions, ask them. I'll circle back. Just if you tell me which website you're playing on and which format, it does help me. If you're playing on DraftKings, if you're playing on FanDuel, if you're playing in a tournament, if you're playing on some other website and you have a random question, it just helps having some context. So, all right, so FanDuel, I mean, we talked about a lot of it, but I mean, right off the bat, Trey Jones going to be a fantastic play for some value. He's only 3.6 over here on FanDuel for the San Antonio Spurs. That's borderline minimum salary, great fantasy point per minute producer, very, very cheap. Everything's going to line up for him to be a fantastic play. 3.6, he's putting up 0.85 FanDuel points per minute on the season. Jock Landale's minimum salary over here at the center position, putting up 0.94 FanDuel points per minute on the season. So once again, another guy you could certainly be going to. The only difference is over here on FanDuel, you can only play one center, and he does only have center eligibility. So, you know, obviously, if you play him at center position, you can't play a Nikola Jokic. You can't play another pay-up center option. So there is an opportunity cost on FanDuel specifically where you can only play one center. He is a really great value piece. Same thing can be said for Daniel Gafford at 3.7, but, I mean, once again, I think paying up for Nikola Jokic makes a lot of sense on this slate. Scotty Barnes at 5.9 is my lock of the night. I love him on both websites. So, just going to look like a great play. It's looking like Fred VanVleet's not going to play tonight. That should just increase his usage even more. And there's no OG on a newbie, and this guy's price tag just has not been changed according to his new role based on, you know, his upside. FanDuel, DraftKings, his price tag's too cheap on both websites. It's a fast up-tempo game environment for him. He gets to take on an Atlanta Hawks team that is not good defensively. Everything matches up for Scotty Barnes to just absolutely crush this price tag. So getting a lot of exposure to him is certainly of high interest to me tonight. So I certainly do like a lot of Scotty Barnes in this one. Some other guys that we talked about, I mean, on San Antonio's side, Doug McDermott's another guy you could certainly be getting a lot of exposure to. Joshua Primo, if he does play, he's only 3.7 over here on FanDuel. So, I mean, all of these Spurs guys will obviously, you know, be guys you can mix and blend in your lineup to be able to get up to the studs, which, once again, I do think you should be doing tonight. You know, I really think it makes a lot of sense to be getting a lot of Giannis, Domantas Sabonis, Bam Adebayo as pay-up options at the power forward position, DeMar DeRozan, Jimmy Butler at the small forward position, Kyrie Irving at the shooting guard, point guard position, Ja Morant, Trae Young, all these pay-up options, Nikola Jokic. So just, you know, dispersing and using all of these value plays on the Spurs really does make a lot of sense to me tonight. And, you know, you just got to take advantage of the value that was given to you. So some price tag differences that really stand out to me. The first one is Zach LaVine. I really like him over here on FanDuel. I like him a lot on DraftKings as well, but 7.8 is just criminally underpriced for this guy. I'll just be loading up on all the Zach LaVine. They're making it really easy on you. So he's someone that certainly makes a lot of sense to be loading up on over here on FanDuel for sure. Trae Young, Nikola Jokic on both websites look good to me. Domantas Sabonis has power forward eligibility over here, so I already mentioned it, but one thing I talk about a lot if you've been watching my content is when you can get a starting center that has power forward eligibility on FanDuel, I always like to take advantage of that. So, for instance, Sabonis, Bam Adebayo, Jaren Jackson Jr. is more of a power forward. Bobby Portis is a center. Anytime you can get a starting center, you know, just go to, you know, we're looking at the starting lineups page and seeing some positional eligibility. Let me go ahead and pull up FanDuel real quick. Let's see. So some starting centers that have power forward eligibility. Jared Allen's a good example of that. Kem Birch for the Toronto Raptors. Oh, by the way, we're expecting Gary Trent Jr. to now slide into the point guard position now, with there being no Fred VanVleet. That's a big deal. So Gary Trent Jr. becomes just a really great play on both FanDuel and DraftKings. He's going to have a lot more assist upside. Scoring upside is always going to be there with the Gary Trent. But he gets a really, really big upgrade here. So I want to make sure that I definitely point that out, especially on DraftKings where he's 6'5". I mean, that just is a smash play. Still like him over on FanDuel where he's 7'2", but it's not quite as friendly. Can we play Barnes and Trent Jr. in the same lineup? Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely, you can. They're both getting a huge bump here. So do like both of them a lot. Gary Trent's going to be looking a lot better. And yeah, I mean, I think we did a pretty good job of going over the overall slate, you know, the positional guys, the pay-ups. The secondary options for the The Kings and the Denver Nuggets do look pretty great over here on FanDuel. So guys that are priced in the mid-range, like Will Barton at 5'8", Harrison Barnes at 6'3", those guys are priced very friendly for guys that play a lot of minutes. Aaron Gordon at 5'9", you have Monty Morris at the point guard position at 5'5". So they're all looking like pretty great plays over here on FanDuel. Those Toronto options and then the pay-up options and then all the San Antonio Spurs value should really be where you're looking to lock in tonight. Jaren Jackson Jr. at 7'1" really does look like a great play for me as well. 7-1's very cheap for a guy that has, he just put up 49 FanDuel points and he gets to take on a Chicago Bulls team. You're looking at the game environment, 237 over under. Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, those three guys certainly going to be my favorite options over here on FanDuel. And we have plenty of value to be fitting them in our lineups. So, getting a lot of exposure to those guys makes a lot of sense. You want to be targeting the guys that get the most usage in the fastest games. And it was a lot more difficult to be getting these guys in your lineups earlier in the day when we didn't have all this value. Now, you could play a Ja Morant at 9'8" and then just go down to a Trey Jones at 3'6", and voila. You're able to fit in a stud and have a really solid piece of value. And it's easy to do. It's really that easy now. So, yeah, man, this slate should be fun. There should be a lot of stars and scrubs builds. I'm going to be updating my projections, my core plays over here on the premium content. If you haven't become a premium content member, guys, I would highly recommend that you do so. Obviously, I give out free content on the channel every day, but if you're really looking to get very serious about NBA DFS, I made a lot of improvements to that over the break as well. So I'm pretty pumped about that. I have the core plays. I do offer a PrizePicks package as well if you haven't checked them out. PrizePicks is the sponsor of the channel. If you haven't signed up, I've been giving out daily picks and videos for that as well. Sign up today using that promo code KJK DFS. You'll receive an instant match deposit up to $100 if you haven't checked out PrizePicks, guys. So this is now the questions segment of the program. We did get confirmation that there is no Fred VanVleet most likely tonight, so that answers a lot of questions that we didn't have before. So like I just said, Gary Trent Jr. is going to be becoming a much better play now and someone that I'm certainly wanting to load up on. And the rest of those Toronto guys really do look good. So, and then pay-up options. I mean, Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think it's going to be pretty easy to get them both in your lineups, and I would highly advise that you do so because they're by far the top fantasy point producers in the league when you're looking at their projections on a permanent basis. Or not their projections, because I have the projections hidden on the screen here, but if you want the projections, you could do so by becoming a Patreon member. But point being, they're the best fantasy point per minute producers in the league. Nikola Jokic puts up 1.82 DraftKings points per minute. Giannis Antetokounmpo puts up 1.75 DraftKings points per minute on the season. When I'm able to get them both in my lineups, I want to do so. And I think this is a slate tonight where you can. And to be honest with you, I think it's kind of a mistake if you're not. So I would certainly be looking to do that, guys. And if you want access to the core plays and the projections, I'm just going to leave this up on the screen real quick. I want to put this in the chat as well. It's patreon.com/KJK_DFS. I know a lot of people have been signing up and they're just trying to learn how to use the tools, guys. When you sign up, I'm going to get an email that you signed up. And then when you click, I post my sheets daily on Patreon. So when you log in, you'll be able to see my latest sheet. So you'll see here it's locked because you have to become a member. But the KJK DFS DraftKings FanDuel, $226. PrizePicks, $226. You can get either of those packages or you can get both and get access to both at a discount. All you got to do is request access to the sheet. When you become a member of mine, I'll see that you requested access. I'll give you access. And then moving forward, you'll have access every single day. So Cameron says, I appreciate the work you put in. Yes, sir, Cameron. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support. 16 likes. We got 22 people in here, guys. Hit that like button if you're enjoying the stream. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. And please ask any questions you have. If we don't have any questions, I can sign off. But I really want to make sure that I'm answering all of your questions on both the DraftKings and FanDuel before I do so. If you're feeling confident, if you feel like I did a pretty good job breaking this down and you're ready to rock and roll on the slate tonight, that's fantastic. Then we can just kind of wrap things up here. But I'd really want to make sure that you're feeling good. You have all your questions answered before I do so. AJT says, Siakam or Sabonis on FanDuel? That's a good question. So now Siakam becomes a much better play with there being no Fred VanVleet. That's tough. Yeah, man. I'm going to have to update my projections to be able to answer that one. I got to be honest with you. Because right now, I'm going to say Domantas Sabonis for sure. But the thing is, I haven't updated my projections to have Fred VanVleet out. When I do, that could be looking a little bit different. But but they're both really great plays. If you could play both of them, I think that's very reasonable to be doing on this slate tonight. So let's just see if I can get a quick run in on the back end of my projections and update this stuff to have Fred VanVleet out. Let's see, Fred VanVleet. Yeah, okay. Let me do a latest projection run, and I'll give you a final answer on that. But I really do like both of those guys, so I think your head's in the right spot if you're contemplating on, playing one or the other or both. I definitely think that your head's in the right spot. So let me just try to run my latest update so I can get you an answer on that, because that's going to obviously change. I would have said Sabonis all day long, but now that there is no Fred VanVleet, obviously there's going to be some usage bumps to other guys on the Toronto Raptors squad, and I think that Pascal Siakam is certainly going to get the biggest bump of all those guys. So I don't want to jump the gun and give you a false answer here. So let me update these as I go along and answer these questions, and I'll have a latest projection run for you any moment now. Patrick says, favorite point guard on FanDuel. Favorite point guard on FanDuel from a value aspect, I mean, it has to be Jones. Trey Jones at 3.6. He's just going to play, mid-30s right now. I expect him to play. We're still waiting on the Spurs starting lineup. Of course, Greg Popovich likes to play some games with us sometimes, so for some reason he's not starting. I don't really see how that's possible. Like, who are they going to start at the point guard position now with no Murray, no Keldon Johnson, none of these guys like Lonnie Walker, Josh Primo, Romeo Langford? I mean, I think that Trey Jones is pretty locked into some minutes, so it would be my favorite point guard play overall. Pretty obvious answer, but that's the correct answer. So certainly would be willing to go with Trey Jones. And for my premium content members, the latest projections are going up right now with Fred VanVleet no longer in. So keep your eyes on those guys. I'm putting them up right now. And I promise I'll be giving you your answer on the Siakam Sabonis, man. That's going to be close. I have to have the projections to be able to answer that question for sure, because that's gonna be coming in as a really close call now. With there being no Fred VanVleet, maybe it's not a close call. Once I run these, if that's the case, then that's gonna be a real big eye opener for me, because like I said, Siakam but the only other thing I would say is Siakam does have an illness, so there's a possibility that affects him. Obviously, we never really know. I'm just approaching it as if he's playing, so he's got to be good, but that can always impact. You never know what could happen with that if he tries to give it a go, and next thing you know, he comes out of the game in the second quarter because he's not feeling good. So there's definitely a little bit of risk to Siakam. If you're playing like a cash game, I think I'd have to go with Domantas Sabonis automatically, just because he had no injury diagnosis. So if I'm playing a cash game, it just makes a lot more sense to be going with a Domantas Sabonis. But like I said, we're going to have this up any second now. Sometimes when I have the stream software going, I have so much stuff going on that it's not going to load quite as fast for me when I'm updating all this stuff. Because I got like 3 monitors going and your live questions and all this stuff going on. All right, we got the latest updated projections for my premium content members. So those just went up, guys. So if you're a premium content member, those just got updated. And to answer your question on the Pascal Siakam or Domantas Sabonis question, on FanDuel, let's see. Oh, my DraftKings run just got updated too. Let's see. Siakam and Sabonis. I think I'm still going with Sabonis, man. I'm still going with Sabonis here. Yeah, I'm still going with Sabonis. It's not by much, though. I got to tell you, it is not by much, man. But Sabonis, yeah, Sabonis would be my answer there. Final answer, Sabonis. If I had to pick one, I do really like both of them, though. They both do look like pretty great pay-up options for me. I think at the end of the day, the fact that Domantas Sabonis is in a 236 over-under game as opposed to in a 223 is going to be giving him the slight edge. I think that's kind of what it's coming down to when you factor in what goes into my projections. But they're both really good plays, man. And let's put it this way. I would not be surprised in the least to see me have lineups with both of them. So, once again, if you're leaning towards going with those guys, I do think your head's in the right spot. Final answer would be Sabonis. I'm still working on updating the projections. Obviously, up until 7:30, I still do have some time to make some further corrections here. But final answer, man, is Domantas Sabonis. So there you have it. And it is very close. It's very close, man. But that's the answer. Mr. Sabonis is the answer. So, yeah, man. That would be the answer in that one. All right, guys, 24 people, 17 likes. If you enjoyed the stream, hit that like button. If you have any more questions, once again, please do ask them. I'm going to hang around for another 3 minutes here. Last call for questions. If there's a bunch of questions coming through, I will gladly hang around for longer than 3 minutes. It's just the questions are kind of dying down, which to me means everyone's feeling pretty confident and they're ready to start building their lineups and all that stuff, which is fantastic. That means I did my job of breaking down the slate, helping you guys come up with the top plays. It's going to be a fun one. Lots of stars and scrubs, man. Lots of stars and scrubs, which is always fun. You're going to be having a great time building your lineups. Should be very easy to be fitting the studs in, which I always like doing, man. It's always fun when you can fit all those studs in. So, for me, I'm ready to go, feeling confident, and I'm excited. It's going to be a high-scoring slate most likely, but that's all right. I like the high-scoring slates. I like the slates where I can jam in those studs, and I think there's definitely an advantage to be had here. Some other people may not quite be used to jamming in those studs, or they may not be quite as good as lineup construction as you if you've practiced on adjusting to the news and all that stuff. You can take advantage and jam in all these studs and have a leg up on the field. So, yeah, man. Feeling good. We got the latest projections up. And looks like everyone's pretty good for the most part. Cameron says I played both of them. Yeah, I think that you could certainly play both, man. I really do. And I don't have my final build done. I've got to get off this stream and update all my projections and my core plays and all that stuff, and then I'll be able to give you an answer as to whether I do, but I can't right now. But I can tell you that my main build will maybe have both of them. I mean, I don't see why not. I think it makes a lot of sense. The only thing is Siakam dealing with that illness. He had a really bad game last time out, only 16 DraftKings points. That game turned into a blowout. He shot 3 for 13 from the field. That was in one of the best possible matchups you could ask for. So maybe Siakam is dealing with an illness that's pretty significant. You know, maybe he's actually not feeling good. And we know his ownership's going to go up with there being no Fred VanVleet. So there's some strategy to maybe fading him. On paper and the projections wise, I don't feel good about that. Like, he should be a really great play here. But I'm just throwing it out there, man. I mean, there's a possibility he doesn't feel good. And if you fade him, hoping that that's the case, you could have an advantage. So, yeah. Last call here for questions. 60 seconds. Last call. If you have any serious, like, really last-minute questions you really want out. Ben Simmons back out indefinitely. They were just talking about Ben Simmons playing within, like, 2 weeks. Oh, my God. You can't make this stuff up, man. So I wonder if he got hurt. I wonder if he got hurt in his conditioning, or like his training on his way back. So, well, that's fun stuff. We'll end the stream with that, I guess. Brooklyn. It's going to be the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving show, I guess, now, with no James Harden. Now there's no Ben Simmons, so that's fun stuff. But, all right, guys, I'm going to bounce out of here. I appreciate you listening and supporting my content. I'm hoping that you guys win some money tonight. Of course, use those picks. Use the stuff we went over. If you want to become a premium content member, would highly recommend that you do so. I'm heading over there now to update the projections and the core plays. So you can get access to those if you do become a member today. If you want to wait until the first of the month, I know some people are doing that because Patreon charges on the first of the month to save some money. I understand. No worries. If you want to join now and start getting access to the content now, join now. If you want to wait to the first, I'll be happy to have you when you join. So I'm out of here, guys. Wishing you all the best of luck on this slate tonight, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.